I haven't even looked yet. Must be yours. I think so. I'd like to welcome everyone to the March 7th Camden County Board of Education regular meeting. Sorry, we were running a little behind. Thank you all for coming out. Consideration of open session agenda changes. You want to go ahead and make it? No, waiting for you.
Wait for me. Thanks. To make a motion to add action agenda item E, formal approval of the plan to relocate sixth grade from Camden Intermediate School to Camden Middle School.
I'd like to ask everyone to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Public comment?
No one signed up.
Would you like to lead us in a pledge of allegiance? If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you join me at the podium when I call your name, please? Jacob Cooper, Dennis Gutierrez, Brandon James, Dakota Williams, Seth Backer, Gabriel Frisbee, Adam Hill, Nathan Smith, Hunter Swan, Bradley Elias, Chris Ramsey, David Andrews, Krister De Filippo, Carson Gibbs, and Jack Strait. Make a line. Will head coach Victoria Black and assistant coach Derek Black also join us, please? I would like to introduce everyone to this year's cross-country team, which is made up of 15 runners. Our teams consist of 4 freshmen, 2 sophomores, 5 juniors, and 4 seniors. At cross-country meets, runners earn points for their position. For example, the first place runner receives 1 point, while the 10th place runner receives 10 points. Meets are scored based upon the finishing position of the top 5 runners per school. The team with the lowest score wins. Our team had their conference meet on October 20th, where they won their first 2A conference championship with a score of 33 points. Dennis Gutierrez, Brandon James, Bradley Elias, Hunter Swan, and Dakota Williams earned first team all conference. On October 29th, the boys cross country team earned the 2A East Region title, beating 8 other teams with a score of 41 points. Dennis Gutierrez, Bradley Elias, Brandon James earned all region honors. The regional win marks the first boys region win in the school's history. To each of you, on behalf of Camden County Board of Education, I would like to congratulate you on an impressive season. Each of you are outstanding athletes, and all of you have represented your school well. Thank you all. So when I call your name, if you would come receive your certificate. Jacob Cooper, not here. Dennis Gutierrez. Congratulations, Dennis. Brandon James. Thank you, sir. Dakota Williams. Seth Boxer. Am I saying his name right? Okay. Gabriel Frisbee. Right here. Adam Hill. I hadn't shaken anybody else's hand. I don't mind. Nathan Smith. Congratulations, Nathan. Hunter Swan. Congratulations, son. Bradley Elias. Chris Ramsey. David Andrews. Krister De Filippo. Carson Gibbs. That's that's it. All right. Thank you, guys. And Miss Black. Is that everybody that's here? Okay. Victoria Black, we got one for you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I would imagine there's one for Derek Black as well. Congratulations. Thank you. All right. Congratulations, y'all. Great work. At this time, I would like to ask Bridget Hapgood to join me. Hey, Bridget, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Bridget is a junior at Camden Early College High School, where she currently maintains a 4.06 weighted GPA. She is a special young lady and a great example of an ideal student. Bridget is always trying her best to help someone in need. She has taken it upon herself to create her own student community service club from the ground up called Helping Hands of Camden County, and encourages other student members to lend a helping hand to others. Bridget's club has volunteered to provide meals at Soul's Kitchen, an organization that feeds the homeless each night in Elizabeth City. On the night of the group service, Bridget made up the difference of what was needed with her own money to make sure enough food was available. Bridget and her club members have also made care packages for senior citizens in Elizabeth City nursing homes this past Christmas. They collected candy and participated in the local trunk or treat celebration. Last semester, HHCC assisted the Early College's Parent Action League with the Christmas fundraiser. This spring, HHCC participated in Read Across America Day by reading to GPS students on March 2nd. Again this year, they will again assist PAL with the Easter Animal Photo Shoot and Easter Egg Hunt fundraiser sponsored by Camden Early College High School, PAL. They plan to continue their relationship with Soul's Kitchen by serving in April, May, and June, and they plan to restock the Bruins Pantry. They will also work with Rock Solid Foundation to build a play set for a child with cancer in our local area, being in Camden, Elizabeth City, or Currituck. They will participate in the summer booth for the homeless and pass out summer essentials and possibly help with bingo night for the seniors. Helping Hands of Camden County will be looking to also do several fundraisers like penny wars and 50-50 raffle tickets at varsity games in the spring. Bridget herself has been the voice of the early college announcements for the past 2 years. When Bridget is not at school or working with her club, she works at the local YMCA with children after school. She does an excellent job balancing school, work, and community service. Bridget hopes to one day become a teacher. And as recently as last week, Mr. Castillo received notice that Bridget has been selected to serve as a student advisor on the State Superintendent's Student Advisory Council, which is a strong and diverse group comprised of 12 high school students from across the state's 8 education regions with 8 juniors and 4 seniors. This is a 2-year appointment during which time the student advisors meet twice per month to discuss education issues affecting students, advocate on behalf of their peers, and ultimately advise decision makers in state public education. Bridget, it seems your accomplishments and accolades are unending. Just to let you know, your principal and teachers at Early College are proud of the difference you have made, not only in school, but in the community. And on behalf of the Camden County Board of Education, we too are proud of your academic achievements, honorary appointments, and the community services you have initiated, which reach out to so many in and near Camden County. Very, very impressive. And it's wonderful to have someone like you represent Camden County. So I'd like to present you with a sports spotlight. Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Thanks. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Chris Whitehurst to join me. How you doing? Each year, the North Carolina Bandmasters Eastern District has the opportunity to recognize the accomplishments of a few of its members by presenting them with various awards, such as the Award of Excellence. We have learned that Mr. Whitehurst is this year's recipient of the Eastern District Award of Excellence. I would like to note that directors who are presented with this award have been recognized by their fellow colleagues and are nominated according to the following criteria. First, the director should be an active or recently retired member in good standing with the Eastern District. Second, the director's band program should be one of excellence, providing students with many and varied performance opportunities offered at the district and state level. The band program should have a consistent pattern of excellence spanning several years and reflecting the size of the school and the resources available. The director must have taught in the Eastern District for at least 3 years. Third, the director shows a consistent pattern of service to the Eastern District as an officer, board member, committee member, chairman of an event, etc. Mr. Whitehurst, I understand that you will be presented with this award in November at the Music Ed Conference. On behalf of Camden County Board of Education, I congratulate you on this impressive achievement. Your passion for music has inspired many students, and they will always remember the teacher who gave them the gift of music. This recognition is very well deserved. Thank you for a job well done. Thank you. Thank you. It would be my pleasure to invite Miss Anna Lane to join me, please. We know how much you like to be recognized. As you all know, Miss Lane is now a civilian, and we wish her many happy years of retirement. But we cannot let her career with us end without giving her special recognition for her 30 years of loyal service. Those who have worked with Ms. Lane over the years will attest to her daily demonstration of her strong allegiance to Camden. Ms. Lane excelled in several roles as an English teacher, principal, and twice as central office administrator. Her final title was Chief Student Services Officer when she officially retired on February 28, 2023. As an English teacher, Ms. Lane was passionate about literature and English language. She knew a book could transport a child to heights without limits, and the mastery of English would create a life skill of effective communication. Her classroom provided an atmosphere where students thrived. She cultivated interactive opportunities for them and encouraged them to let their imagination generate a curiosity that transformed them into explorers by believing they could choose their purpose. As a principal, she was the driving force of Camtech High School, a groundbreaking school specializing in computer-based learning, technology, college partnerships, and project-based education. We pulled up an impressive statistic about Camtech that, based on Ms. Lane's leadership, Camtech graduated its first senior class with an 88% four-year cohort graduation rate, and her success as principal led to her being named the Camden County 2011 Wachovia Principal of the Year. I think her role was very fitting. As Chief Student Services Officer, she had many responsibilities, but her main focus was our students. She had one measuring stick, and that was what is best for our students. And she did just that until she's chosen to retire. Ms. Lane, on behalf of the Camden County Board of Education, we thank you for your energy, your passion, and your emotional investment throughout your career. You have been an example to all of us. In closing, I'll share that J.K. Rowling was once asked how she wanted to be remembered. She said, as someone who did the best she could with the talent she had. Ms. Lane, this is exactly what you have done. And as one of your former students, it is my privilege to award you a spotlight and thank you for a wonderful career. Thank you. How could I tell you no?
You don't ever let a former English teacher pass an opportunity to say something. I would like to say thank you to the Camden County Board of Education, to the 8 superintendents under which I have served, and to the students. The students are the ones that make you or break you. They're the ones that you do this job for. They're the ones that make it all worthwhile. I would like to ask a favor, though. If you are currently employed with Camden County Schools, will you please stand up? And there's some that are already standing in the back over here. I just want you all to recognize these are your heroes. These are the ones that are going to carry on. I'm throwing in the towel. As I told somebody, it's time for this old mule to head to the barn. So I'm throwing into the towel, and this is who it's going to be left in the hands of. And we are so blessed to have such wonderful educators in Camden, as well as a board that puts children first. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And Dr. Twyford, you did not stand up, and you should have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Open session to appeal.
No.
Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Any opposed? Motion carries. Information updates. Mr. Juan Castillo of Camden Early College.
All right. Good evening. I guess folks that are here, Dr. Twyford, school board members. So I come tonight just to share a little bit about the early college, a little bit of what's been happening this year. First, let me begin by saying, I mean, it's an amazing place. Ms. Lane talked about it. It's the kids that make us look really good. I'm not going to let you leave yet. But I'm lucky enough to have great teachers and amazing students that are really second to none. But you don't want to hear from me. So with the help of some great students, we've put together this video to kind of show you a little bit of all the things happening at the early college. So hit it, Joe.
What is your favorite class here at the early college and why?
My favorite class is math because Ms. Jackson really explains it well for me to understand.
What do you look forward the most each year?
Man, that's a hard call. I really enjoy the beginning of the school year when we have students coming back. There's a level of excitement, and the warm fall airs are here. That warm fall air, the athletics, you just kind of get back in the swing. But I'd say my favorite time is the end of the year. It's kind of heartbreaking to see the seniors leave, but it goes so fast. We have spring break and then prom, and then we'll do a few senior celebrations before we know it's graduation. But it's always a great way to wrap up the year.
What do you like the most about being here at the early college?
I really like in the last year we've been awarded a lot more freedom and treated more like college students, which I think is fair because we do both. So I think there's a really good balance here.
Why did you pick Camden Early College over the high school?
Smaller classes, free college.
What do you like the most about being at the early college?
I like the early college the most because college is free and it's more laid back environment.
What do you like the most about being here at the early college?
You kids, y'all inspire me every single day, and it's true.
Favorite class period to teach and why? My favorite class to teach is Math 3 because I feel like I'm getting the students ready for COA, and that's the most important thing we do at the early college.
What's your pathway and why did you choose it?
My pathway is associate engineering, and I chose it because I like math and science, so it fits me.
I picked welding, and I picked it so I could have a job right out of high school.
What do you like the most about being here at Camden Early College?
I really like the setting. I think it's nice to be able to help people find their kind of path and give people opportunities they might not otherwise have access to. I think that's the best part.
What do you like the most about being at the early college?
I like that it's very flexible with all the classes.
Which is your favorite class period to teach and why?
So my favorite classes to teach are my two history classes. I teach world history and American history, but probably American history would be my favorite just because I've always loved history. My dad loved history, and that's where I got it from. And I'm just a great big history nerd. So American history for sure.
What do you look forward to the most each year?
The thing that I look forward to the most each year is interacting with students. The incoming freshmen are excited to start their high school journey, and the upperclassmen, I really enjoy interacting with them and watching them grow and mature year after year.
To the most each year? Well, for one thing, I really look forward to the new freshmen because it's always great to see new faces. And I also really look forward to seeing the juniors and seniors because I get to see how much they've changed from freshman year to, the time they're getting ready to graduate.
So I hope through this video you can see the really family atmosphere that we have at the early college. The experiences the kids are getting, it's just amazing. The kind of teachers that we have really have done an amazing job. I keep saying I'm the lucky one to have, been put in the position that I am. But just lastly, before I leave, I do want to, I know we've acknowledged Bridget, but we also have another member of the Helping Hands. If you both can stand up, these two young ladies have worked endlessly to try to help that Helping Hands of Camden County kind of do well. So thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. And with that, do you guys have any questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. School safety and security update, Mike Lawrence.
How are y'all?
Great. How are you?
Good, good. So a couple things real quick. Met with fire marshal, addressed things going on here in the school. Met with the sheriff, local fire chiefs, emergency management, about some plans, some different things we have. We'll discuss that at a different time. Got some training coming up here this month for staff on a teacher work day. Some training next month for staff on a teacher work day. Going to start doing the already working on the physical security assessments. I don't know if you've noticed, but at Grandy in the front parking lot, Buddy has switched out those lights with LED lights, and it's a lot brighter there beside where Dr. Dwight parks. And then on the back side of CIS, there's this garage there on that garage on the back side of the school. So we're trying to switch to about $1,000 a piece, but we're trying to get those flipped around. So any questions? Any questions for me? Okay. All right. He'll have the details about the drill on the this month on teacher work day. So if you want to attend, that's fine. So no question. You got anything?
No. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Curriculum instruction updates, Miss Kelly Hoggard.
Good evening. I wanted to take a moment to share a few updates regarding curriculum and instruction here in Camden, and I'm thankful for a few minutes of the time tonight to just get you guys caught up on what's been happening in our office and some of the things that have been happening in the district. As outlined by legislation this year, each district is required to prepare 2 different literacy plans that provide a picture of where we currently are with literacy instruction at the core levels as well as the intervention level. Big focus of what I would like to share tonight is about where we are with literacy. So the Literacy Instruction Standards Plan is a deep dive into what core instruction looks like in 12 components of science of reading aligned instruction. This plan breaks down what those components, for example, phonics, comprehension, writing, and vocabulary, looks like at each of the grade bands. The legislature required NCDPI to provide an exemplary and non-exemplary model for districts to begin to outline where they fall in the individual categories and what goals they would develop. In order to get the most accurate picture of where we are as a district, I brought together a district literacy team consisting of teachers, administrators, and interventionists from a variety of subjects and grade levels to have guided conversations about each category. Through the development of the district literacy team, these conversations and literacy learning walks, I've been able to see and hear literacy instruction in action. Our plan was submitted on December 15th and is awaiting NCDPI feedback. As we wait for feedback, we have worked as a district to outline a few opportunities for growth in literacy. One of the key components that we have established as a growth opportunity for our literacy instruction is to outline what core instruction will look like in Camden. Many teachers across grade levels have expressed frustration in a lack of core curriculum beyond the NC Standard Course of Study standards. And while they understand that a box curriculum may not be a complete answer, we need to begin to look at a way to provide consistency across classrooms, vertical articulation of literacy instruction, and an opportunity to make vetted, aligned resources and curriculum available to all teachers. This way, we have that Tier 1 core teaching more clearly outlined, which will allow for more fidelity and more resources for teachers and students. Teachers have shared that letters training has given them the why behind a science of reading approach to literacy, but now they need our support provided by curriculum for how to implement and what resources to use. In addition to the Literacy Instruction Standards Plan, we have also submitted our Literacy Intervention Plan, which is a K-2 focused plan to help ensure that we have appropriate resources and understanding of supplemental and intensive interventions that go beyond that core curriculum in order to build stronger foundations for our earliest struggling readers. This plan was submitted in the fall, and we received feedback shortly thereafter. The bulk of our feedback aligns to what we have outlined as areas of growth with regard to core literacy scope and sequence, a science of reading aligned curriculum, and ensuring that intervention resources are aligned as well. The feedback outlined for us directly supported what we were saying as a team. We must first establish our core before we can dig into expanding our resources and materials for interventions. Since implementing this plan, we have used PRC 85 money to purchase Haggerty Phonics curriculum that some K-2 teachers are piloting this semester in their classrooms in order to provide feedback for full implementation in the fall for phonics curriculum as part of our core. Our next steps are to continue to obtain curriculum samples in an effort to allow the district literacy team the opportunity to have roundtable discussions and feedback on an opportunity to fill this core curriculum gap. We're starting with the work at the primary and intermediate levels initially, understanding that we will continue to look at literacy all the way up through 12th grade in all subject areas. My goal is not to make all teachers reading teachers, but to expand skills and strategies that allow all teachers to more effectively teach their content with the understanding that reading, writing, speaking, and comprehension are part of all subjects. That's kind of where we stand in the plans that have been submitted this year so far. Any questions? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to provide everyone an update on the superintendent search. Camden County School Board is pleased to announce that the deadline to submit applications to serve as the school system's next superintendent has passed. The board received 12 applications from 2 different states, including North Carolina and 1 territory. The applications will be processed by North Carolina School Boards Association and released to the board. The board looks forward to reviewing the applications and moving into the interview stage of the superintendent search process in March. Student board update, please.
Good evening. Today I'm going to be giving the update on the primary school, CIS, middle school, early college, and high school. So starting off with Granny Primary School, they would like to thank the over 70 volunteers who came to read to the students during the Read Across America Week. They would also like to thank the staff for the amazing job they did dressing up every day to encourage the students to read. The book fair is currently going on, and GPS has begun the fun run activities. They would like to give a shout out to the school social worker, Ms. Hannah Lee Meeks, for all that she does for the students at Grandy. She is the link in the chain between the home, school, and community, providing direct and indirect services to students, families, and school personnel. On Wednesday, there will be a statewide tornado drill, and GPS will continue to look for ways to improve the safety and security of the students and staff at Grandy Primary School. For Camden Intermediate School, they celebrated Read Across America Week and held a ribbon cutting ceremony for the book vending machine on Dr. Seuss's birthday. This was funded through a Donors Choose grant written by 6th grade teacher Sandra Harris. The CIS book fair has started, and the Pennies Wars will begin on March 20th. There will be LETRS training next Thursday for the teachers and 9-week testing at the end of the month. The PTO purchased new outdoor furniture for an outdoor classroom and an outdoor gaga pit. These items will be arriving soon. They also treated the staff to a potato salad bar. I would like to thank the parents who helped plan this and sent items in to Ms. DeBrita. For Camden Middle School, the PTO Bruin Bash fundraiser was a huge success. Not only were they able to reach their goal of raising $5,000, but they were able to take Mr. Reeves to the wall. They would like to thank everyone for their support. The joint Camden Middle School and High School band concert was on February 21st. Both bands did an amazing job, and they received feedback forms from the judges to help them prepare for the upcoming MPA in Wilmington on March 22nd. The PTSO is hosting a Shamrock Shindig social on March 15th, and the spring sports have started with the first away games on March 15th and the first home games on March 27th. This past weekend, the Science Olympiad team competed at the regional competition at COA. The team took first place at the regional competition and will now move on to compete at state's competition in April at NC State. This week starts the ELA NC check-in, and the March NC check-in starts on February 22nd. For the Camden County Early College, February 22nd, the Parent Action League held the first non-waffle Wednesday of this new semester in efforts to provide a healthier breakfast for staff. They provided a buffet of yogurts and granola bowls. Early college juniors took the ACT this morning, and for the month of February, they began the spotlight of 2 seniors per week. This was led by the senior class president, Jenna Eyre. You can check out the school's Facebook page for information. On Friday, February 17th, Mr. Castillo and 6 other early college students presented information to the 8th graders at the middle school and their experiences. The application process for the early college has now been open since March 1st and will remain open until March 17th at midnight. Information about the application process and deadlines are available at Camden County Schools, the middle school, and the early college websites. Mr. Castillo held his first coffee with the principal session back on Wednesday, February 7th from 6 to 7. He will be having his next session tomorrow on March the 8th. Anyone interested in a good freshly made cup of Colombian coffee can come and join him. He will be having these sessions on the second Wednesday of each month. On March 25th from 10 to 12, the Parent Action League will be hosting a spring Easter photo session to raise funds for the students and teachers at the early college, along with the Easter egg hunt at 11 provided by the student-led lead club. And last but not least, the high school. Spring sports have started, and we are excited to watch the varsity softball, JV and varsity baseball, men's and women's track and field, and women's soccer programs. Last night, we held the winter sports program banquet, and we are proud of the sports programs here at Camden High School. Also, the juniors participated in the ACT this morning. This week, again, is the school social worker week, and they would also like to thank Ms. Meeks for all that she does for our staff and students. Camden County High School students have been participating in a lot of community service activities in the community. Recently, we are helping with the GPS book fair and also volunteering at the food bank at Methodist Church. We held an 8th grade information night so that the students could learn about both high schools and what they have to offer. It was a great night for parents, students, and the administrative teams. The CTE students visited Camden Middle School and spoke with every 8th grade student and then set up a display at the 8th grade parent night. The Camden JROTC took a field trip to base Elizabeth City with all of the other Coast Guard JROTCs in the country. This past Saturday, over 15 cadets volunteered at the Coast Guard Marathon with 2 Camden County High School students running at the 5K last Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Financial update. Received. We all have it in our packet. Yeah. Any questions? Sally, you want to go? I'm just messing. All right. Miss Amy Gillikin to present Scribble software.
Good evening.
Evening.
I want to talk to y'all a little bit about Scribble software that we currently use. Scribble software we use gives us the ability to do enrollment electronically and send transcripts requests electronically. It is also approved by DPI as a third-party integration, so it's approved by DPI. We currently use 3 different applications of Scribbles. We use Scrib Enroll, Scrib Transfer, and Scrib Order. First of all, I want to talk to you about Scrib Enroll, which is our enrollment system, which allows parents to complete the enrollment process online. The system is set up to collect all the information that we previously required on paper. Parents can upload all necessary documents that we require into the Scribble system. When they have completed the application and all the required documents, then the system lets us know, and then the application can be electronically pushed over into our student information system, which is Power School. Last year was the first year we were able to have all kindergarten enrollments processed through Scribbles. All 124 kindergarten students were processed through the Scrib and Roll. We have currently started the 2023-24 kindergarten registration. And right now at this time, we have 29 kindergarten students pre-registered. Some of the advantage of Scrib and Roll is that we're able to keep track of our shared housing parents. Parents can do all registrations at their home instead of coming to the school, and they can do it at their own pace on how they get their information. It also saves our data managers time by being able to communicate through the Scrib and Roll system and not being able to have to always pick up the phone and try and track somebody down. The system lets them email them and communicate through the system like that. Last year we did 265 new enrollments through Scrib and Roll. That was, people coming into our district. That included the 124 kindergartens. The other thing that we use is called Scrib Transfer. Scrib Transfer lets us know the whereabouts of a student. So if a student goes to another district, that district can request records through the Scrib Transfer. So all we do is electronically send them back and forth. Most of the districts in North Carolina use Scrib Transfer, so we're able to process those documents pretty fast. Like 504s, IEPs, AIGs, services. That way, students can, when they come here, they can go ahead and get stuff rolling. The other one is the Scrib Order application. This is where alumni can request transcripts and companies can verify graduation for potential candidates for employment. Scrib Order helps us process requests, and we can electronically send information to colleges and businesses. So it allows us, like, instead of putting a transcript in the mail and then it, possibly getting lost, then we can just upload the transcript, goes right into the college's, financial aid or, student admissions or anything like that, and they get it right away. Right now, we don't charge anything for our current students that need their transcripts. For our alumni, we charge $5, and we charge $15 for any third party requesting graduation verification. Scribble suggested that we raise our prices up to make more revenue to help offset the bill. So they sent me the pricing and everything. So this is our current for Scrib and Roll. In Scrib Transfer, they were charging us $300 a month, but now they're going to go to annually, which is actually going to be cheaper. The integration is $2,500, and we always pay that. That is the communication back and forth. And this is the Scrib Order, and then it shows this was run for the past 12 months. So we've had 183 request transcripts to the system, and then that shows the money that we made. And then this is, we charge $15 for the, employment or anything like that. We had 124 of those. So that's how much money we generated off of Scrib Order last year. That offsets our cost. But they're suggesting that if we raise our prices to $10 for alumni and $25 for the third party, that if we use the same numbers, that we would generate an extra $21.55, which would give us a total of $4,930 that we would make off of the request. And they also gave us some other districts that currently do it. Most districts charge $10 for the transcripts. Some of them charge $20 for their graduation verification. Some charge $25. Bertie's charges $5. I wasn't able to find any information on Curry Tuck or Perquimans on their website to be able to find how much they charge. But in the end, it gives you the breakdown of Scrib and Roll, and Scrib Transfers, $2,400. And so it comes out to cheaper. It comes out to about $200 a month. So if you take last year's revenue, we paid $5,725, but if you increase the pricing, we would only pay $3,570 for the year. But I'm asking for your approval to increase the rates for transcripts and graduation verification and for your approval of the renewal of the contract. So any questions or anything? I can help with.
If you want a recommendation from the superintendent recommends that we increase the fees $10 for students, for alumni, and $25 for third party. That will help offset some of the cost of maintaining the software.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for the Scribbles contract with the understanding that we could have a correction in the contract of first paragraph, a corporation in good standing authorized to do business in the state of Strike, Virginia, and add North Carolina.
Thank you.
And item 17 under North Carolina law to strike the word Texas and add North Carolina as the law will govern. And also to approve the $10 for alumni and $25 for third party verifications. Heard the superintendent's recommendation and the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Revised Board of Education meeting calendar. Dr. Twyford, if you would present the revised Board of Education meeting calendar.
The law requires us to announce the dates, times, and location of all of our board meetings. We have been meeting in this site for a good while. We've been the county commissioners have made available to us using their meeting room in the new administration, what do you call that building? The library building? Library building. And seems to be a good venue for conducting business. Plus it would get us out of the high school and not have to reset the high school media center every week. So we're recommending that we approve the relocation, and we would announce the change in venue for the last 3 meetings of this month from the Camden County Media Center to the County Commissioners meeting room at the county library. That's the only change that would be made, but we do need to announce that to the public.
Motion to approve the revised calendar.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation and a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Suggested rules of procedure for small local government boards. If Mr. John Leidy would make the presentation, please.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The Board of Education is required to have some rules of procedure. You're free to decide what rules of procedure you want to use. By policy, the board has already adopted and approved the usage of Robert's Rules of Order as your procedural rules. That's fairly common. It's by no means required, however. And there are other types of rules that could be adopted. As the topic suggests, there's a set of rules that have been promulgated by Professor Fleming Bell from the School of Government, which are called the Suggested Rules of Procedure for Small Local Government Boards, which are designed to be an alternative to the Roberts Rules. Roberts Rules are designed for use by a broad spectrum of bodies, such as public bodies, local government, state government, as well as private bodies, such as unions, political parties, homeowners associations. So they have a pretty broad type of application, and in some ways they're fairly complicated. The proposed rules for local government tend to be designed specifically for local governments in North Carolina. So they're a bit more streamlined and they're a bit more focused on the things that a local government has to do. So I've done some research and found that at least 2 boards I could find have adopted the suggested rules and procedure for small local government boards. One of those being Union County and another one being Dare County. And interestingly, both of them, they're similar, but they're not identical. Both of them took the recommended rules and tweaked them for some reason to fit their own purposes. So for example, the proposed rules, as written by Professor Bell, they number 28 separate rules. The Union County rules, they have about 24 of those, and the Dare County rules have 26. So they've selected some different ones. And even as to the rules that they both have in common, they've changed those as well. So there's some degree of flexibility that the board could utilize if it wanted to. If you're interested, I've printed out copies of both the Union County rules and the Dare County rules. I can distribute to everybody so y'all can study those. But I think if you're interested in adopting this type of rule and not using the Roberts rules, to accomplish that, you'd have to make a motion to amend the board's policy to reflect that these rules are being adopted. And then I think it would be best that y'all be on the same page as to exactly how you want those rules to read. I'll give you one example of a difference between the two. They both talk about the need for a quorum, which of course is a legal requirement. The Union County rules follow a statutory provision that applies to counties, which provides that after a quorum has been established, if a board member leaves during the meeting without being excused, then they are counted as voting in the affirmative of anything that comes before the body after they leave. Okay, that's a standard thing with counties. It's incorporated in the Union County rules. The Dare County rules don't include that. That's a significant difference that you would want to think about whether you want to have or not. It's useful in those situations where when someone leaves, you're not really sure how to count a vote, but at the same time, if somebody leaves, they would need to be excused before leaving the meeting room. Otherwise, they could be deemed to have voted in favor of something that they really didn't favor because they simply weren't here. So that's just an example of one of the substantive changes that you may want to consider. But if you're interested in utilizing these rules, I suggest you study them. And then at the next meeting that you'll let us know of any particular changes or tweaks you want to use. And then we can finalize those rules, and then ultimately you can adopt those to replace the use of Robert's rules as your procedural rules.
I would mention that Ms. Kuchel has tried to order copies of the rules have been revised recently. Before, I think it said for counties, and now it says for small governmental units. I don't know whether the contents have been changed or not, but Ms. Kuchel's tried to order them and found that it's out of stock right at the present time. So as soon as we can get copies, we will distribute them to the board members for your review.
If the board wishes, I can hand out copies of all the of these 2 sets, just so you can have those to review, unless you've already seen them. But I think it might be useful to actually see how it looks on paper.
Just as a question for the county commission chairman, the county manager, this is the same standard y'all have swapped to when you left Robert's rule, just because of how complicated and legally challenging that Robert's rules can actually be for a small body to work under, right? It's the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Table the whole thing for now, then? Not for customary review, because we have.
Well, we haven't seen a policy.
Right, that's what I'm saying, just table the whole issue for now.
Mr. Chairman, if I could offer a comment, I would like to see the items, the revision.
Bring it back for the
under
next.
that.
Yeah, we'll bring it back
back
today.
and have review with the ones Mr. Lighty has provided with us to take further action.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out what to do with this item. If we gotta do something with it, we can just,
Table
that's
the
what's the
item
table the
itself.
item, not table the policy for review, is a suggestion, action.
It's an action item, but you don't have to take any action. It's been presented and
We'll try to get the information to you for the April board meeting.
Would you, if you wanted to take action, you can still take action to table it for further review at the next board meeting.
Motion to table the small local government boards procedures for further review until at least next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New high school construction project. Miss Maggie and Miss Ashley. Mr. Bill, how are y'all? Thank y'all for joining us.
Thanks. Good evening,
Take it away, Maggie.
Good evening, Dr. Twyford. Good evening, board members. Thanks for having us. We wanted to provide an update on the progress of the high school project and kind of give you a little history of the process. I know school projects are a process and they take time to get all the right answers and get all the right decisions in place. So we have a little bit of history, or a lot of history. This is a lot of information, and I'm not going to go through every single piece of it. I think you'll have a copy of the presentation. And I'm going to hit some of the highlights just to kind of give you all and the community an update of what all's been going on, that the project is still moving forward and decisions are being made at both the district and county level. So May 2008 was when the county commissioners approved purchasing the land for the new high school. And that's been kind of what we've been working on for the majority of the time in between. I know more recently there's been some additional discussions, which we'll get to, but that was the original plan. In November of 2017, that was when the initial grant of $2.3 million was awarded. $2.3 million is not $50 million. So we have a long way to go to get to where we are today. And that takes time. So I'll skip through a few things and get to November 2019. That's when the district received approval for the additional $10 million. So we're now at a little over $12 million grant. And then in November 2020 was when we had the vote for the bond referendum, which the voters overwhelmingly voted yes. And this brought us to a total project budget with the bond and the grants to a little over $45 million. So moving forward, we began doing the documentation that was required for USDA. That's a long process. It's a lot of information that has to be pulled together by both the county and the district. There's a lot of site evaluations that are required by USDA, environmental studies, geotech reports, surveys. All of that was being worked on. Design was being done by Mosley. But in January of 2022, we found out that there was an opportunity for the district and the county to potentially apply for additional grant funds. And it was decided that it was worth it to pause and try to get that additional money to hopefully help offset the cost of inflation, to help get the project to where it needed to be for based on the original design and where the budget was at the time. So we paused, we updated the project budget, and you all applied for additional grant funds. And then in April of 2022, you received approval for an additional $27 million, actually over $27 million. So that was kind of what you were waiting on, but still, we're only at $40 million. So one final piece that you all were waiting on was the North Carolina state budget to pass. There was an opportunity for you all to get an additional $10 million to bring your total grant award to $50 million. If you remember, the state budget got delayed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the last state to pass their state budget. But they did finally pass the budget, and you were awarded an additional $10 million, bringing you to a total of $50 million. That was in summer of 2022. So less than a year ago, you finally got your full grant award. And in the meantime, there were some discussions about additional site options, potentially a new piece of property, or potentially purchasing property adjacent to the existing piece of property that you currently had planned for the high school. That was ongoing. While that was ongoing, you were also discussing potential scope adds to the project now that you had some additional grant funds. I think there was some potential during the budget process, we'd cut a few program items. You'd pulled back your enrollment to 600. And so you all really wanted to go back and look at, okay, now we need to plan for the future. How can we do this? Do we look at adding classrooms? Do we need to look at revising some CTE spaces to have larger labs? What does this look like? So while those site discussions were going on, you all were looking at these potential scope adds. So this brings us to today. So things have been going, things have been moving. It's our understanding, and please correct us if we're wrong, the property options that were being considered are no longer an option. And so as of now, we're understanding that we're proceeding with the existing site. Okay. And we also are at a point now, after you all completed your survey of the potential scope adds, to present your prioritization results. These are two big decisions that need to be made: where the high school will officially be located and what scope adds you're going to make. Those two decisions are key decisions in getting the high school process moving forward. So over the last few months, you all received a survey with 10 options to consider for added scope. You each received the survey, you each prioritized it based individually. We received those results, we averaged those rankings, and then we're providing the results based off of those averages. So the number one priority item was adding classrooms to account for current enrollment and projected enrollment. The number two item was revising the CTE space to enlarge some of the lab spaces. This was a result of having some conversations about what you currently have in your high school, about what we were currently proposing in the new high school, and trying to get back to where you are with the sizes that you have now. And then the third option was the auxiliary gym with a stage combo. So those are kind of the top three. And then you'll see that there are other rankings after that, but we'll focus on those top three. And Ashley's going to come up and talk about the design options.
Thanks, Maggie. Hopefully I'll get through this. I had my voice go out 2 weeks ago. I'm still not all the way back. So two of the things we're going to talk about is priority number one and priority number two. So the classroom addition and the CTE revision. If you remember in kind of the bubble diagram of where those would go, there was some generalization of kind of how we would do this. We're still very much in generalization. No conversations have been had with staff, nor with you as a board on kind of the layout, but we wanted to show generally how big that would be and some ideas of kind of how those classrooms would lay out. So if you can see the arrow pointing to the classroom addition kind of at the top there, those 6 classrooms could be added on to the building as it's laid out now. You see it doesn't quite take up the entire space for kind of our potential classroom add that was always kind of future in the original layout. So that was for a few more classrooms. And then we obviously know that there are going to be some secondary spaces that we're going to have to add. We haven't done plumbing calcs or things like that. So that gray box you see in there is just some, other spaces that will probably need to go along with that classroom add there. Then the secondary one was the CTE revisions. I will say the one thing about the classroom edition was there was always the request to have a science classroom added with those 6 classrooms. So that's kind of lumped into the CTE revision arrow there, in the fact that that science classroom would be clustered with the other 3 classrooms. So what we did was we actually added in that 4th science classroom that was basically on top of what was a CTE classroom in the original layout, and then began to lay out the larger CTE labs and their associated classrooms within that CTE wing. You can see that that enlarged space starts bumping out into some proposed areas for other programs and things like the greenhouse and the parking. So there's obviously a lot of site layout that would have to be adjusted. We've always said that we were really butting the parking lot up against the building as it was. So adding additional scope will need to provide for some adjustment in parking layout and other considerations for site program. Then following that is future auxiliary addition, that being one of the latter program or option considerations that still would fit within that future auxiliary expansion dotted area below the gymnasium. Future early college addition, that would be additional classrooms. So that's really just an extension of that pod there on the lower portion where the early college is located. So all of that being said, those are kind of your option considerations. We know that we are tight on land. Again, I will say that this is not the site will work. We are always puzzle solvers and we can fit everything in with what is there. One consideration that could be made, it would take a lot more consideration on our part. So I do not have any images for this, but would be doing a 2-story option. Obviously, if you stack program on top, your footprint becomes smaller. It does give you more wiggle room within site layouts, parking, those site element considerations like greenhouses and any other items that need to be considered, provide space for any future expansion. Because as you can see, if you pick the 2 top options that have been identified by the survey, it does begin to really overtake any extra space you had on site. And we will have to consider some additional parking as we increase the program with those additional classrooms too. So that'll probably start eating into any additional space that you might see on the site there. Good.
So I know this is a lot of information based off your priorities. I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about is timeline. So if you did decide to go 2-story to try and save on space on the site, that obviously would take a significant more effort on the design part to figure out how that program was going to lay out, how you were going to stack, how we were going to adjust the site to make it work. I would expect for that timeline to be much longer than just maybe considering your classroom additions and CTE revisions based off of a 1-story plan. So kind of keep that in mind. More time creates an opportunity for more inflation, but we know that there's pros and cons to both of those decisions. So we wanted to at least give you an initial kind of discussion point about it. And if you have specific questions or if we can get more information for you, we're happy to do that. And we're happy to answer any questions about what we've presented at this point.
Would the whole school have to be designed for 2-story, if it's a future block be 2-story?
Can you explain a little further so I can better answer your question?
Like a future wing, like if you added on at the end, like will there be any room to add on to the end up at the top there or at the bottom? Where you could just make that future section or that future
block
of 2-story, so you don't have to design this whole entire school for 2-story, I guess.
So let me see if I can best answer your question the way I understand it. If you anticipate future growth, you would make the future growth be the 2-story space?
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to two-story the whole structure. You could just, 'cause I know that takes a lot more cut and fill on the site because you're putting more load on the entire building.
Right.
If you just did it for a small area instead of the whole area, you'd save money.
So I would say that, yes, that is definitely an option to look at. And I think that if we do stack this building, we're only going to be stacking your academic spaces anyway. So what we would be looking at is probably what you're explaining right now, is that we're not going to be looking at stacking the entire school. I would say looking at doing something future in the sense that after we design this and it's built, then your next option is a 2-story. I think that this site would be maxed out and that wouldn't actually come to fruition. You couldn't actually do another addition that would be 2-story. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was just more getting at, like she said, we would have to redesign the whole thing. Instead of redesigning the whole thing and having to make the whole thing capable to support 2 stories, if you just did that top future expansion that you're already doing a part of, so you just basically would have to design that to be able to do 2-story.
Right. So
that one little section, then it wouldn't be much more extra design work. Everything else stays the same, and then that structure could handle going up 2 stories as you add on to it into the future. It saves time and money.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something we can look at. And obviously, we as a team will weigh options and cost and timeline. I would caution against doing such a small stacking. Like just putting 6 classrooms upstairs. It's a lot of money to
It's
spend.
bigger than 6 because you got the whole backside of it that we're not doing yet, too, right?
Right.
So
Right.
It'd be a lot more than just 6.
Right. So there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean that whole dashed area.
Right.
That whole area being future design plan for 2-story or 3-story. I mean, once you're going up, you're going up. I don't think the lane could probably do it.
But what you have right there in yellow in that dash section is planned additional classrooms to build at the start of the project.
Correct.
Right. But you could go
So
ahead
you're
and
not
get
asking-
subgrade ready.
Yeah, but are you asking to build a second layer on top of the existing structure?
They seem to be able to in the future.
So you're talking about everything here being a 2-story addition at some point.
Yeah, capable of that.
So I think that, again, it's hard for us to present because I know we're not bringing you everything because we're not designing out, but there's additional parking that has to go with that. Obviously, we're taking up parking here. There's a greenhouse that was proposed there. We aren't even talking about the fire truck. There's a lot of program pieces that I think this land that we see here that's currently dotted probably gets eaten up by. So again, I think that if you're gonna go 2-story, you do it now. You don't wait because I just don't think the site is gonna accommodate a 2-story addition down the road, if that makes sense.
One thing to keep in mind too, and Kim's not here tonight, but I don't know if you all remember, but I think when we originally started this process, one of the things that came up was space for parking. And so we had discussed submitting a variance request to see if maybe we didn't have to have as much parking because there's significantly more parking proposed for this new high school than you have currently at your existing high school. And that didn't work out. So we're still having to provide all of that parking. And the more classroom space you add, the more parking you have to provide. And that's where we're talking that there's really not enough space to expand because you don't have space for both. You might have space for the classrooms to be built, but you don't have the space to add all the parking required.
Right. I mean,
Well, in another sense, and that what you're showing there, those 6 classes, you could just stack them on top of this pod here and then not even have it needed at all up there, right?
right. If you chose to direct us to go 2-story, those would obviously not go there. They would go on top, and
Just go ahead and shift it
there
this
would be
way.
other opportunities for maybe art to shift over. There's a lot of things that could happen to really kind of condense your footprint.
Right.
So there's time and money involved in redesigning the 2-story phase.
With that one section, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But-
there's time and money involved in us redesigning
everything.
Anyway, I'm not going to say, I appreciate Maggie saying there's more time. There's obviously more time in it. The amount of time, is it is it 1 month? Is it 2 months? We will do it as quickly as possible, but to break this down as easily as possible and make my job sound as elementary as I can, when we move something as far along as this is, we break the way we design it. It's a model, everything is in 3D. So when we start redesigning, it just takes a lot of time to basically break it. It's like a Lego, you break it all and then we got to put it all back together. So anything we break, we're going to have to put back together. So even doing the CTE change is going to break and rebuild. And I know that there's been some discussions about adjusting maybe the front elevation and some roof. So all of that again is going to break. So is going 2-story going to be an extensive amount of time compared to also doing those things? I would say no, but I wouldn't want to discount that. Yes, it's going to take more time, and we just got to consider the code that goes in it. Our team's got to make sure that we're doing it right. We don't want to do it frantically quickly and then find out we've got to readjust later. So
Will the geotech and soil and everything from that site that we already have to be amended or redone if you decide to go up, or is it what we got for readings out of that originally? You now know what needs to happen.
We're probably not going to be able to answer that without Kim here, but I will say I doubt we're going to significantly move the foundation, and the parking's already been submitted to NCDOT. So it would be minimal just to accommodate if there was foundation changes or parking changes, because we did a pretty extensive geotech.
yeah, I don't think we would have to do additional geotech. I don't want to answer without our structural engineer here to say, would the footings have to change? Probably. Would they have to change extensively? I can't answer that.
I would just expect more cut and fill, really, because
I'm just wanting to make sure it wouldn't.
I think
cause us to
the
have to go
data's
back.
there, but you'll have to do more cut and fill because the PSI is going to go up.
I was looking at your current borings would give you enough information on what your footings can support. It would only be if your footing locations change significantly to where the current borings are done. You might need 1 or 2 more just to confirm some things, but generally the first reports are going to tell you the capacity. So you're going to know whether the loads are going to change significantly for what you have, I would think.
Yeah, and I don't want to put words in our structural engineer's mouth,
Yeah.
but that might be something we could easily provide that data back to say this is a go or a no-go, or
Yeah.
the cut and fill is extensive because of X, Y, and Z.
But it'd only go up for the 2-story section. I mean, everything else that stays the same
Yeah.
should be already known and done because we
But
bid it.
It depends on the whole configuration too, what we're.
Oh, where you add a
While we're
block.
simplifying that discussion, there is a lot of rethinking on how the building lays out when you go 2 stories.
Well, yeah, everywhere you break out of your, like you said, this, I guess the CTE revision would have to be
Yeah.
examined. This.
The academic wing is not laid out. I'm an amateur architect at this point. But the wing, academic wing is not laid out for 2 stories right now. So to make it a 2-story wing, you're going to change how that looks. And it is, so
When you say the academic wing, are you talking about?
the front of the building, everything in yellow,
Yeah.
Isn't laid out for a 2-story purpose right now. So once you start doing that, it's going to change the look of the shape of the building. So, and to be efficient, again, 2 sets of stairs, an elevator, there's a lot of cost in a 2-story that we don't have right now. And the more you can make a nice size 2-story, the more efficient the cost gets, but there is cost being added to go 2 stories. And,
That was going to be my next question is where's the bang for the buck as far as what area to 2-story? I mean, can you give us some general idea of how much you might consider
it's very hard to do right now without knowing.
Yeah.
So I will just give you what Maggie and I have discussed just in my, like, if you ask me to do it today, I think you take the science classrooms and the art classroom and shift those over. They would still, at least art would remain on the first floor, but that would give you more.
Do you mind?
Sorry. Yeah.
writing?
So these 4, your 4 green, and this is your art classroom. Take those and move them over. Art would stay on the first floor. Usually it's just works better for it to be on a first floor. The science can be on either. A lot of times we like that to be on the second floor. So then those spaces move over. That just gives us more square footage to stack. And so it's just a math problem of like, okay, I have this many spaces and then I divide it in half, right? And try to stack those on top of it because Bill's right that we want to make sure that we're not just giving you 4 classrooms on the top. That does nobody any good. It doesn't condense your footprint enough. And also the costs that you're paying for the stairs and the elevator, we want to make sure that it's worth it. So those would be some suggestions. You know, I could, you know, go even further and say, does early college shift over? I think that requires a lot more meetings and a lot more understanding of how we can shift that over to all stack together. That would probably be my latter request of how we shift things, just because if we're talking about time, the more meetings and understanding of how we adjust programs and we all work together in the same building, you know, I think that becomes more complicated. I'd like to keep as many things similar as possible because I think we've met needs and understood how the building functions from all of our meetings well. So those would be my suggestions if we were just talking about it right now.
So like the CTE expansion, you would actually save that money then because you could just use those classrooms. So that money could go towards paying for the 2-story.
That is some of our hope that in spending money somewhere else, we're not having to spend it there. It doesn't mean that it is an additional program. I don't want to discount that, obviously, but if we're going to spend it to go up, let's shift the program over, keep the shape similar.
That makes sense. Yeah, because in those 4 classrooms, science you push back over, that can be the CTE expansion if it's enough square footage to meet the needs. Or maybe it minimizes at least what we have to expand to meet that square footage needs. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Just taking a snapshot of that and the information you give us tonight, can you confirm or deny for me that what we're looking at is the max build out of square footage that the property will handle, considering parking lots, retention ponds, athletic complex?
I will not confirm nor deny, but I will make my most educated guess with the information that I have here without my, you know, my experts with me. I would say yes.
But then we basically need to go 2-story.
Well, that's it. Even if we went 2-story, you're going to have parking lots and you're going to have asphalt and retention ponds. And
I would add, by going 2 stories, you gain some space, but not significant. So we need to be cautious on the whole concept of going 2 stories, that you do gain space, but you're not gaining, you might say where that white square is, where the addition is your potential additional space. So it's not, and maybe somewhere the CT in the back is, again, back to being available. So it increases your areas that are available again, but it's not like you've suddenly gained half the footprint of the building. You're not getting that again. You're getting back the spaces you're talking about adding today.
In the future. We have future, that's the main thing, is we can build on less square footage so that in the future we can expand somewhere.
Yeah, you're basically talking about what you want to add today, it might be what you can add in the future, but you still will have parking issues.
Right.
Still have that consideration.
But the 2-story would accommodate what we, that was a joke. But the 2-story would be able to accommodate what we want to add today in the 2-story.
2-story would accommodate that. We still have to increase parking, which is going to take up some of that space. So we do have to keep that in mind. Parking's going to grow, so some of that space.
But parking's going to grow whether we go 2-story or we just do the additional classes and the CT revision.
Exactly.
Regardless, we've got to figure parking.
Right. And the 2-story will be somewhat more expensive, so it's going to eat into some of that budget, just because, like we said, you got elevators and stairs that we don't have in the current budget. And the efficiency isn't quite as, it's not a wash between a 2-story versus a 1-story, just because of the size of this building. There's an efficiency issue based on how big a 1-story versus a 2-story is, and we're not quite there with this building, that we can make it a wash.
You don't have a ballpark number of what that is yet?
I have no educated guess on
about
that.
We spent 2 weeks trying to figure out if there was a way, but not we're educated, but not that educated.
Yeah, I think for the next step would be truly deciding if you want to go the 2-story route. If we need to proceed with really looking into that and spending time trying to look at how the program would lay out and start having those discussions. If that's the direction we need to take. Or if we're just going to stay 1-story and we're just going to look at doing these changes, if that's the direction we're going to take. It's two very different directions with very different approaches for Ashley to start with her team down. And so I think we're kind of at this crossroads of which route would you like for us to take? I know you're maybe not going to be able to make that decision tonight, and you may have a lot more questions before you make that decision. That's kind of where I think we are.
I mean, how difficult is that? I mean, I guess I think we at least need to see the number. Don't y'all?
Well, I mean, it has some bearing on which way we go, I think, because if it's X amount of dollars to go 2-story,
Right.
is that really cost effective with the limited acres that we have?
Right. We need to see that number to see if it's the cost benefit going up. I mean, without that number, it's hard to make a decision. But I don't know how far you have to go to get us approximate number, you know. It's a tough.
The other thing we're butting up against is getting a budget set so that we can hopefully get
the
loan locked in.
Yeah.
Because we can't do that until we come up with a final number of what the budget and the commissioners approve the budget for them to request to get the loan locked in.
I think the loan, they also have to have a set of complete plans too.
They do. If it's USDA, well, probably any.
So we kind of have to have that complete.
So actually, in your professional opinion, knowing the limited amount of space, land space that we have, accounting for potential future needs, would it possibly be your suggestion to proceed 2-story now? Try to lock you in. What's your best judgment? If you were in these seats right now, what would you suggest?
You want to play some Jeopardy music?
I know, seriously. I think, and I'm not trying to skirt the issue. I appreciate why you're asking the question. I'm trying to be as honest with my response as possible. I think both are valid approaches. Does one seem to give you more options on the site? Absolutely. Can we provide you a number today, tomorrow? Probably not. We're kind of in this cycle, right? Where you guys want a number from us, but we don't really know the direction. So we can't really give you the true number. So we give you some ballpark and then we all roll down the hill together. So I feel like it's really hard for us for me to say one is the right choice. I don't think either one is a wrong choice going forward, but I understand your caution about looking into something that is really feels like probably to anyone who's watching out of left field of now we're going 2-story, right? But I think you are maxing it out as a 1-story. Absolutely.
Well, you know about what our budget is. I mean, will 2-story work? Can y'all make it work? Huh?
You want my professional opinion?
Yeah.
No. I think you better, and I'll stick my neck out.
Go for it.
You're all backing away.
And Maggie and Ashley.
My professional opinion, I think, based on the size of the school, I would stick with a 1-story. That gives you the best options for what you need to do right now. It is a tight site, but it's a very inefficient 2-story building to go 2 stories. And your program works better at this size to stay 1-story.
All right. Sounds good to me then.
So as it's laid out, I know the site's tight. We still got some parking issues we can work on, have some other end around things and maybe help with some of that. You've got the 6 additional classrooms in the yellow. The rest of that hatched line
Is other potential.
will be still available at some point for future growth.
No, it's probably additional parking, your greenhouse and your
additional
fire.
And the future auditorium expansion space gone. More than likely.
I'm going to say more than likely,
More than
yes.
likely.
Any future aux gym expansion?
It's still available.
That one would still be available in the sense that you would not have to add additional parking, and that area is still available. Kim would have to answer if there
Right.
would be additional stormwater for that, but otherwise that one is still available.
And the college classroom expansion is still available, but that would need parking, possibly.
And that layout with those additional classrooms, CTE expansion or revisions is what gets us to we said roughly 810 students.
It was
Uh,
6 classrooms.
6 classrooms times
I didn't write that one down.
24. Somebody do the math. I think it's 24.
120.
In there. This one? Yes, something like that.
I didn't know it.
No, I didn't write it down. If it's in your notes.
It's a little
it's
over
probably
120, right?
Yeah.
6
One-
times 20 is
Yeah, so I think it's 160 additional students. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's close.
Yeah, I think it was 650 that put us at the 810. I think that we discussed at the joint meeting. So, but that's with what's up there that will fit as is.
Mhm.
Nothing else needed to be added. We're at an 800-ish capacity
Correct.
as we go.
Which is kind of what the core was being built at, was 800
Correct.
capacity.
Correct.
Which is the other discussion when you go two-story, you haven't changed your core.
Yeah.
And when you go to your additions, your core is still remaining the same.
And we'll still have that room as long as we don't let parking or the greenhouse get, we put that somewhere else.
There ain't nowhere.
We gotta find somewhere.
Where?
That's what you're saying. There
That's
ain't
our
nowhere
problem.
to
We gotta
put
figure it out. We can put it on the roof,
You
right?
can always move,
Greenhouse
you
roof.
Greenhouse on the roof.
Greenhouse on the roof.
can always move the greenhouse later.
We'll put it on the roof. Make use of some of them flat roofs you'll have up there.
I've talked to a couple of commercial contractors since the joint meeting when second story was mentioned because of site constraints. They all echo what he's saying, that when the building's this small, going 2 stories doesn't, it's not cost efficient. I won't say it's not cost effective, but it's not efficient on a way to use the money. It gives us the extra space, but I think what it's going to cost to build that small second story section is probably going to wipe out any potential thing other than the classroom and the CTE. I mean, as it is now, we've got a little bit of money after those 2. We can make some other small projects happen, but that second story will probably eat every bit of that little bit we have left over. I'm not an engineer by any means. I'm just talking to the contractors and real estate stuff. They basically pitched the same idea that 2 stories good when you can do big areas of it. It's not worth it for that small of a.
Well, we've done the design on at least 70% of that. So we just got to add the additional classrooms and the CTE expansion and the aux gym stage combo thing. Would be the only, if we have that as an ad alternate or whatever we decide to do with that. That's, I guess, what we got to talk about next. But yeah, I mean, I think with what we got, we're already there on a lot of it. That's what we've been designing the whole time. So it'll save time and money. Just going with what we got and doing the 2 expansions and the.
I mean, 210 student growth is a pretty decent chunk of room to grow for quite a while.
Dr. Spiver, could I ask your opinion on one thing?
I'm going to defer to Ashley. What's that?
Well, adding the extra academic classrooms, extra science lab, and if we add that many more students to our population, is there anything else we would need to add, elective-wise, to offer courses for that many more students? Anything in the arts or the CTE or some other elective?
I don't want to hedge, but I'm Johnny come lately in the planning process here, and I don't know. I see all the classroom spaces, but I don't know how they've been designated.
Welcome to my world.
So it's very difficult for me to
Hard for me to
say.
answer.
I think if you're adding 150 students and your core facilities are already designed for 800 students, the elective courses would be the ones that would be the ones that you need to consider, and what would be the capacity of some of those classrooms would be. How many students could each of these, like a CTE classroom, how many could they handle? And then with 800 students, how much head count would it generate? And I really don't know the answer to that. That, I wish I could give you a better answer, but I just really can't.
Well, with this site, I
That's
know at
fine.
one
You
time
said
there was
enough,
talk
it
that
would
we
be
couldn't get
needed.
the practice field. Is that available now?
You said enough, it would be needed.
No practice field.
No, it would be the same, close to the same site layout plus additional parking to accommodate the additions.
So we get everything sports wise we were planning on get, but no practice field. So that brings me back. We probably need to put the turf in there as an alternate, because if there's no practice field, I think we're going to need turf on the football field, band of practice. And
Probably we got to figure out the damn layout and how it's going on site before we figure out what we got left to add on to it.
well, it's not adding. It's the football field's there. It's just an add alternate. We may need to do turf. I mean, I know when Chris and Mark were here, they were both saying that was kind of a big thing, especially if you don't have a practice field. I'm assuming the turf would be even more important, would it not?
If we don't have a practice field, we're in the parking lot.
Yeah. So kind of.
Football team can't practice in the parking lot.
Yeah. So even if it was turf, it would mess up your practice, or that would make
No,
it
if you're not giving a practice field, then the turf is really the only option.
right. That's what I meant. Yeah. So we don't really have an option not to do turf without a practice field, in my opinion. Because then the band has nowhere to practice. But it's something to throw out there.
And now we're back to square one.
Well, we just got to do turf. I mean, loss. I mean, in a sense, if you lose the practice field, you pretty much got to have turf.
Yeah, I mean, so two things. One, that's I mean, you can correct me. Fairly easy add alternate. If you can afford it, great. If you can't afford it, it's something that we've done plenty of times in other districts where we've retrofitted a natural turf field to a synthetic turf when the funds become available. So that's not something that I think if you make the decision now that we can't afford a synthetic turf this year when we build this new school, you're not just locked into natural turf forever. We make those changes. Yeah, we do that all the time.
We had a pretty significant contingency too, so.
And it can be looked at down the road, even during the construction phase.
And
Once we get,
you'll know how much it costs based on the alternate pricing.
Yeah.
but I mean, if the bids come back good, then we might get to do it right from the get go. But
Yes, it can be bid as an alternate and then review.
Chris, would that aux gym stage combo work for you, or was a non-true auditorium not even?
It's better than what we currently have.
Right. I just want to make sure it's worth, if that's the best option we got, that it would work. I mean, I don't know, unless the county wants to build us an auditorium.
Yeah, I just caution. So that's priority 3.
Right.
And priority 1 and 2 almost take up your potential funds. So,
Right.
right,
Not
to
all
get
of
to
it,
the
but-
72.
Yeah.
And that
If you
would
stayed there.
put you over. So that's something that if you want to pay for the design up front, I mean, that's we have bid auxiliary gyms as alternates before.
Right. Well, I mean, let's just say I'm just speaking hypothetically, the board's got to make the decision, but you're talking 72. So let's just say if we try to set a budget at 75, and then we just see, what happens. I mean, we don't have to spend it all, and I don't know what the rest of the board would agree to, but I know that we're running into other issues here that we may need like the turf, we got to have a place for the band to practice. Since we lost that practice field. It's the board decision.
Additional classrooms and CTE revision, according to the last update, we got to about 8.7 million.
Just those two?
Just those two.
Yeah.
But those are the priorities. That's kids with classes with places
Right.
to sit and learn.
Mm-hmm.
That puts us, like you said, at the 72.
Yeah. Well, that puts us at 69.7-ish.
69.7.
Yeah.
So if we go to 75, then that gives us another 5. If you get good bids, you could get the Aux Gym.
Possibly, but the 7.3 for the Aux Gym with the stage puts us at 77.
Right. I said if you get good bids, which means lower than the estimates, but you got to count. We still have a $3 million contingency, or did you take that out?
That's using every bit of additional money we have.
That's using the contingency money too. Oh, okay.
That's the full 11.567, whatever it ended up being after the last meeting.
Okay. I think that's the direction we probably need to go, unless anybody else, based on the information we've got here tonight.
I think that's the site plan.
The site plan.
The layout. I don't think there's any argument that the extra classrooms and the CTE are number 1 and 2 across the board.
We already voted. I mean, that's already.
I mean,
our survey.
So is the rest of it give 3 and 4 as add alternates? Is that?
Well,
is there anything you can't do as an alternate down the road? Any of the 10 things like you have to know now?
So anything that requires design. So I'll simplify it in the sense that a turf change is something that could possibly come down the road. It's really just a spec change, excuse me, some detailing, but not to the extent of, if you told me in 6 months that we wanted to do the auxiliary gym as an alternate, that would be a problem because of the time that it would take to just do that design.
And the same with option 4, that's your field house. That's going to take a design timeframe, so we would need to know that up front.
I mean, my opinion,
That's
we don't need the
something-
field house more than we would need the turf at this point. Since we
So
lost
if you did the classrooms and the CT, which were 1 and 2, and potentially looked at 3 as your alternate, plus potentially doing the synthetic turf field as an alternate, I think that's a reasonable bid package. I think when you start throwing too many alternates in a
Right.
bid package, it makes it very complicated for bidders, and that can turn people away from the process.
That's my suggestion. Would be the 2 for sure, and then the stage, aux, and turf as alternate, and then raise asking for a budget of 75. But unless anybody else, that still puts us barring. Well, how much less?
About 8 million.
8 million less than what the bond referendum approved.
And keep in mind that 1 and 2, so each of these options included what we projected to potentially be the cost plus a design cost. So if you're doing alternates, you're going to have to pay the design cost for those alternates. So just keep that in mind. Even the alternates have a cost associated with them up front, even if you don't actually
Right.
take that alternate in the construction.
But the turf alternate should be minimal, I would assume, the design. But I know the building would.
Yeah, the turf would,
more-
be,
much
the
more
turf
significant.
would, but the auxiliary gym
Yeah,
would be
would be more
additional. Yep.
significant, yeah.
Is there even room to put a field house if we don't have room for a practice field?
Yeah, I think we actually have it shown. It's in between the baseball complex and the football.
I think we can come back and build that ourselves later for
Yeah.
like a lot cheaper. That probably.
Well, I can't. I'll supervise.
Yeah. That would be something. I mean, putting a field house up is something that, easy.
Yeah.
I think we could. Larry could take care. He gives a metal building up.
I feel like we won't have any money for this.
Yeah. Well, that field house is $1.5 million. So I don't think we need it that bad. But I mean, we need it, but that's pretty expensive for a field house, in my opinion.
So is the Aux Gym with the stage everybody's number 3?
I mean, that was the number 3.
There you go. So that's pretty much maxing out the project. So there we go. Makes it easy.
And then I'd add that turf in there too, because I mean, if we can't get the gym, we might could get the turf. Just depending on how things go. The aux with the stage and then the turf. I don't know. You got any?
Putting a Band-Aid on the wound. It's putting a Band-Aid on the wound, in my opinion.
Which part?
Of that, how much better are we getting for the investment of money than what we currently have today? That's what I'm processing right now.
So scrap the whole thing? I'm just
Yep.
asking. We've been sitting here with this mess for way too long. Is that what we're going? We want to scrap the whole thing and scrap it?
That's still,
I mean,
that holds way more.
That's
children
future
than we-
expansion. That's children for the next 40 or 50 years. I mean,
That holds 200 more.
the whole
children
thing was brought on by an approval of
than
3 or
this with
4,000 homes in the county. That's why we're even looking at that thing.
Yeah.
But hey, scrap it and let's move on. Whichever. Dragging for way too damn long.
Got nothing, Jason?
In a rock and a hard place. I really don't like the idea of how much surface area the single story eats up and leaves us no room for anything. I hear completely what you're saying about the break even point or whatever. No, I don't want to go through another redesign phase.
I mean, again, like 70% of that's design, already done. We bid it. We bid the site work anyway.
I'm aware.
But at least the structural part, the site work side. But I know there's more to do as far as the building goes.
Yeah, and the drainage layout will change. There will still be some site changes that come along with this. So
The drainage layout should be similar, though, shouldn't it? I mean, it's
You
pretty
add-
much the same footprint.
there'll be more roof drainage. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember what
yeah.
Kim all told us.
A little bit.
Yeah.
There's some adjustment.
There will be some adjustments, yes.
I think this county's waited long enough. I think this is what we got. This is the land they bought. This is what, the land we inherited. This is where the people want it. And we put a survey out. So I think people are ready to see something happen.
So we just set a budget and say these are the top 4 things we're looking for.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Well, we don't set it. I guess we ask.
We ask.
For the
Yeah.
commissioners to set it. I make a motion that we ask the county commission to set a scope budget of $75 million for the new high school project on 343. Include the unanimous number 1 and 2s as automatic builds when we submit the package. The auxiliary gym with stage as the 3rd possible option.
Add alternate.
However we're going to scope it out. And the synthetic turf upgrade for lack of a practice field. However, that's got to be worded to send that package to the commission to say yes or no.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can, we put either of y'all on the spot. Or you may be able to enlighten everybody. And I know it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with us because the commissioners are going to set the budget and request funding. But I mean, one decision that the county has to be aware of, and I know y'all will make them aware at some point too, but you know, the difference in USDA loan rates right now versus conventional rates and the time process for both. You know, it's my understanding that if we go with the USDA, it'll likely be next spring, close to a year, before we're able to.
We have to have all drawings completed and approved before we can bid. So all the redesign, all the site work has to go through all the processes, all the approvals. There's a multi-step process, so we are out quite a ways.
Without changing the footprint, I mean, this gets us less out quite a ways than.
If we go to a conventional loan, it'll be, I mean, we have more of an opportunity to phase the project and bid, for example, if the site work is completed with the adjustments that we need to do. And that, I'm putting Kim on the spot because she's not here.
Yeah.
But once, for example, the architects finish the adjustments to the footprint of the building and we know where the utilities are going, and our civil engineer can make adjustments to the site plan for the parking and what they need to do, they may be able to release the site package earlier if we're not under USDA financing, earlier than we would be. Under USDA, we can't do anything in phases. We have to do it all at once. So we have to have a complete set of drawings with everything.
So USDA won't let us do site work? But that's really got nothing to do with the building. That's the land.
If it's all being funded under the same.
Well, we can
finance
use,
package.
what if we use county money? It would then replace it with grant money for the site work.
It doesn't currently work that way with them.
But it's not their money. The money we're borrowing from them isn't being used for the
That's not how
site.
they see
It's,
it.
it's the project. So they're funding so their agreement to fund a portion of your project loan is based off of the total package that you submit to them.
Well, don't submit the site work to them. So we're submitting, we want you to give us a loan for the building.
They've already seen the whole project, so it's a little hard to pull it back.
Okay, I mean, but can legally, we pull it back? I'm just saying from an engineering standpoint,
I understand. No.
that land is not the best.
In theory.
And if we could do the site work this summer and give it a year to dry and settle, it would be very smart thing to do.
I
We
understand.
would be happy to at least look into it.
We'll explore it.
I think it does. If we could hit this dry season, at least get the site work done. I know we got to wait another whole year to put metal or concrete. That's fine. But I mean, if we could dig that junk dirt out, get good dirt in, let it set for a year, that's going to be, that's to the betterment of the project.
We'll take another look at it and see. It's been it's a very lengthy process with them. And then anything you change makes it lengthier.
Right.
So.
Well, it sounds like we got a year to go anyway. So.
'Cause what's the current interest rate right now for USDA versus conventional roundabout?
Well, we know USDA.
3.25%. Is that what I said? It goes up at the end of March. Yep.
3.25.
3.2. Did I say 3.75? Yeah, I don't have my phone.
When are we able to lock in,
3.75%.
though? Once we have a full package.
Yeah. You don't have to have all the drawings done, but we have to get a full package put back together.
How long will that?
2 months.
It won't take as long as what we originally, because we have the environmental studies done. So we have a lot of the pieces done,
Yeah.
but there's still paperwork that has to be completed with the updated project budget information. And that's going to just take time to pull all that together. And the county needs to be involved in those discussions since that's the funding source.
Right.
So we can look into how long that time frame is going to be to get you into a locked in rate, but for sure it goes up at the end of March.
Have you given any clues as to how much?
Usually it goes up about 0.25% to 0.5%.
But compared to
So-
conventional rates right now, which are 8+, what's the conventional rate right now?
Oh,
For
y'all
commercial.
yeah.
So
we have to go USDA.
So on a 30-year, $25 million budget, that's almost $750,000 a year difference in interest payments between 3.75 and 8%.
Yeah, one other piece to consider with the USDA, and this is new as of January, it's all projects being funded through USDA are subject to and it's called the BABA Act, and I'm not going to remember all the words, but it's basically Buy American. So just like a federal project, has to have every piece of material that comes through the project has to be stamped made in the USA. That potentially adds logistics and cost. We know that just by experience of having had to do that on federal projects. So
We have exceptions.
while it may be a better rate, there's other pieces that go along.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with USDA because I'm
Baba.
with a co-op, which is under RUS, which is USDA. We have the same Buy American clause, but they generally, when you're building a substation, they usually, as
Yeah,
long as,
especially with electrical components.
because electrical components are tough right now.
Steel used to be the biggest problem.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just new as of January. So that would have not impacted us previously, but does impact us now, and a consideration that we would need to take into account with costs.
Not everything's even made in America anymore.
I know. I think these are great questions, and I think it's something that we can, now that we kind of have maybe a little bit of a direction, we can start having those conversations with you all in the county about what that process looks like.
Should we schedule a joint meeting? Is that beneficial? Get together with some potential dates.
The board anticipated doing that later this month, so we'll reach out and try to get some mutual dates.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Christian? Dwight? Chris? Anything else you guys need to?
Well, we thank you and appreciate your
Yes,
direction.
thank you.
y'all.
Thanks for coming down again.
Thank you. And we're available for any additional questions.
Thank you.
I don't know what
New item.
Yep. Action item E, approval of plan to relocate sixth grade to Camden Middle School.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I recommend that we formally approve the relocation of the sixth grade from Camden Intermediate School to Camden Middle School, and that we begin the planning process for relocating the third grade and report back at the April board meeting.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion? We have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent's recommendations from closed session for employment of personnel.
We discussed the employment recommendations, personnel recommendations in the closed session. All these potential employees have been vetted, and it's the administration's recommendation that they be approved.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve personnel is presented in closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. There will be a special closed session meeting Thursday, March 9th at 6 p.m. in the conference room at the county library for the purpose of reviewing applications received for the superintendent vacancy. Item B, Board of Education budget work session Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, 6 p.m. at central office. You have received a binder with related information. Any other business or future agenda items? Just, if you will, when we get word from the county as some potential dates to, let's all look at our calendars and see if we can make something work. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.